So you guys criticized the Padres in management. What just happened here, Jim?
What did just happen?
You guys criticized the Padres in management, calling for change. Saturday's loss to Washington State, or as he calls it, lose. Saturday's lose to Washington State was a debacle! Exclamation point. So weak! Exclamation point. I'll entertain it because you've just created 10 minutes of content for us.
Thank you.
First of all, you can't be further off base in this one. San Diego State's a 15-point dog that absolutely had chances to win the game. Sean Lewis said as much post-game. He said it again today during his weekly press conference. Absolutely, they could have / should have won the game.
They were 15-point dogs?
15-point dogs.
I thought they were... Okay, never mind.
No, yeah, 14.5, whatever.
Okay.
Led by 12 in the fourth quarter. John Mateer, really talented quarterback for Washington State, made some plays. Danny O'Neal, freshman quarterback, threw a pick in a tough spot there late. True freshman quarterback. You figured at some point there'd be a moment like that, and they end up losing the game 29-26. Hold on, let me watch Juan Soto.
Wow, to left.
Yeah. So I don't understand. You guys criticize the Padres calling for change. Well, A, we're not doing that now. Change what? They changed. They just changed.
Yeah.
And they're showing progress. You know what it reminds me of a little bit? And again, I'll be the first to say it. I'm biased. But this reminds me of like the Andy Green "We're coming" press conference. I watched San Diego State lose a game like that to Washington State, and I'm not left thinking like, oh, man, there goes the season. I'm left thinking they've gotten better, and they're putting themselves in positions to win football games. And I don't know what's going to happen from here on out, but I do know that, honestly, watching them play makes me more optimistic than anything else because I'm seeing a team that's getting better.
So I watched
5 minutes of the game.
No. I watched like 95% of the game on Saturday night. And the one thing that I took away from the game is that I loved the way that Sean Lewis coached that game from a standpoint of kitchen sink. Here it is.
Yeah, fake punts. Wide receivers are throwing passes.
You're essentially a 15-point dog at home. You're not going to win if you play the conventional style of game.
Right.
You're going to need to switch it up.
I like
You're going to need to take some risks, and you're going to honestly need to hit on those risks to win. He had an onside kick to start the second half.
That's right.
They didn't recover.
That's a great point.
But it was a move that, to me, screamed aggressive. We need to continue to put our foot on the gas pedal and try things that are unconventional to win this game. And, yeah, they should have won the game. But, like you said, Danny O'Neal, he had the blitz from the left side. He had to get it away quickly, and he didn't see the linebacker there, and he made a mistake. But I think overall, from the fake punt to the wide receiver pass to the onside kick to the going for it on fourth down, like there were a lot of moves in this game that when I was watching, said to myself, dude, he's throwing the kitchen sink at these guys, and it almost paid off. And yeah, it's a bummer that they lost, but you're happy that the style of coaching that he had in that game was the way it was.
And they're progressing. And here's the thing, Danny O'Neal left the game for a quarter. Like, you didn't know if Danny O'Neal, your starting quarterback, was going to return. I don't even know what it was. Upper body, something, but he returned, thankfully.
They said it was like a
stinger?
Like a chest injury or something?
Okay. Well, he left. Your backup comes in. I mean, this isn't the game. Like, my takeaway after this game is like, how could you not beat Washington State at home? Like, what are you talking about? Washington State is like a playoff contender. They're probably going to go 11-1. If you look at what they have to come, this is probably their toughest game remaining. Yeah. They'll likely go 11-1. They'll likely finish top 15. They're 22nd right now in the AP poll. You had them on the ropes, didn't finish the game. Okay, fair. You want to win the game. There's no question about that. And we'll see. Listen, Boise State this weekend, let's not kid ourselves. It's not easy. Boise State is truly one of the best teams in America right now. But is there a path to 6 wins? I still think it's there. I do. With New Mexico and Air Force and Utah State. In fact, after this past weekend, I'm like cautiously optimistic that they can pull that off.
I mean, it's a game that on paper they were always expected to lose.
Right.
If you're going to be upset as an Aztec fan now with 7 games in,
I don't think this guy is an Aztec fan. No, would be my guess.
He's probably an Aztec troll.
Right.
Like he's probably and you're like, well, you criticize the Padres. The Padres also are a professional team.
Yeah.
The Aztecs are a college football program.
It was picked to finish 8th in the Mountain West.
Right.
Yeah, he's not. I looked at his previous messages.
He's not an Aztec fan.
No, he's a troll.
He's a troll.
He's a troll.
Right.
But I mean, it would have been easily by far and away the signature win of the Sean Lewis era here at San Diego State.
Yeah.
Which I was bummed about. Like,
Me too.
I wanted it to be that win where you're like, all right, that's something to really build off for your program. You beat not a top 25 school, but a school that was in the running and still is now.
Well, now they're 22nd.
Okay, so but before the game,
they were 26th coming in,
and they still had a very good path to make it to the college football playoff. Yeah, it's a bummer they lost, but I think there's a lot of good things in that game. There's a lot of good things in that game that you can look at as.
It's so funny how people are. There's so and by the way, it's not just the texter, and by the way, this is probably the vocal minority, but it's so funny how people are coming out of a game like that. If your initial takeaway, in fact, I replied to someone on social media, probably stupidly. Someone's like, at John Schaefer, this defense is an absolute joke. It's no surprise they lost the game. I'm like, what are you talking about? Washington State averaged 40 points per game. You held them to 29. Washington State averaged like 500 yards per game. You held them over 100 yards per game below their average. Like if you're so, people go so far off you're so far out there in left field. It's one thing to say, man, I wish they won that game because they positioned themselves to do it. I think that's fair to be like, this defense was awful. What game were you watching? The defense wasn't awful. Defense gave them a chance to win. So did the offense. Gave them a chance to win. They didn't win it, unfortunately. We'll see if that changes down the stretch in the final 5 games of the regular season.
Yeah, I thought they played well. You know, there was a lot of times in that game. It didn't feel like I'm not gonna say we're in control of that game, but it didn't feel like they weren't fighting an uphill battle the entire time.
Yeah, no, they did. I think for about 15 minutes they felt in control. They went up 12 with about 13 minutes left, and that's where the game flipped. The big play, the Mateer looked like they had him down on a sack. He escaped. He ran for 20 yards. You know
yeah.
That was massive. And there was also a ball when they were down 28-16 or whatever the score was. When they were down by 12, that 50-50 ball, Brenner, on the sideline where it went like in and out of the arms of Chris Johnson, it was caught. Yep. But they're a good team, and they've got an NFL wide receiver in Kyle Williams, and they've got like a top 10 Heisman guy in John Mateer.
And they were favored by 14.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
and by the way, it doesn't get easier. Ashton Genty, guess what? He's good.
Yeah,
I mean, he's really good.
I'm just looking at the stats for that game. Okay, so they outgained them in total yards. They had more passing yards. They had more rushing yards.
Even in turnovers.
Even in turnovers. Time of possession was pretty much even. Actually, it was almost dead even. Mm-hmm. The only like big discrepancy was the yards per pass was 9.5 for Washington, only 6.9 for San Diego State. But if you look at these numbers here, like
comparable,
both teams, 5 for 12 on third down for Washington State, 5 for 14 for San Diego State, fourth down for Washington State, 1 for 3, fourth down for San Diego State, 1 for 2.
Right.
Like it was an even game.
Really even.
All the way through. They held their own. They should have won the game, but a true freshman quarterback just made a mistake. That I'm not going to say that cost him the game, but that was the mistake that you just couldn't make there. And unfortunately, he made it.
Yeah. And again, could you still win the game with him throwing that pick there? Yeah. I mean, it was more than one play. Watching that fourth quarter, it was more than one play, but we'll see. And again, I think if you've been watching all year and you don't think this team is progressing, then you're watching different games than I am. Because I've watched every single snap because I'm calling the games. They're getting better.
They had a wide receiver, a linebacker, their second string quarterback come in because of Daniel's injury. But
they had injuries everywhere.
Yeah, I mean they unloaded it. The clip. They threw the kitchen sink at Washington State, which I love. I love the aggressiveness of Sean Lewis on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Honestly, in the past, I don't know if you're getting that from an Aztec head coach.